Well, it's Friday. It's a live show, but I'm not sure that I'm alive. But at least I got Brew here to rising tide and lift all the boats or whatever it is that's going on. Brew, are you less ill than I am this time around?
I'm definitely less ill than you are, sicko.
Oh, God. I'm cooked, man. I don't know. Honestly, I did all this prep last night because I knew I was going to be in trouble today. And I had this grand plan in my head of where we were going to take this show. And I don't know where I'm going with this thing right now. But I'm Dan Besbris. This is Fantasy NBA Today. He is Aaron Bruski. You can follow us on Twitter at Dan Besbris and at Aaron Bruski. And this is a Friday weekend review episode of the podcast. So Brew and I are going to go over what I think are some of the larger stories of the week. And we would be remiss if we didn't start by discussing the news of the morning, which is that Brew, your I believe it's an estuary that you're running right now, has just become much more popular.
Yeah. I'm an evangelist of Eubanks estuary. You haven't heard of it?
I had briefly visited, and then I found it to be not my favorite area of the globe, and then now it looks like a much better area of the globe again. Can you tell our lovely listeners what the hell you're talking about?
It's a homely place. It's sometimes you just get lucky, I guess. No, I don't know. We've been watching him forever. It feels like. And San Antonio was, I was always just hoping he would get cut loose there because back in those days, I think I'd have to look, but he had a little bit more pop. He was just putting up these lines that you just said, oh, what if he played 28 minutes per game? And then finds his way to Portland. And I just think it's great because you're seeing the locals start to ask for more playing time for him, and they're trusting him late in games. And it's clear he's the defensive option over Yusuf Nurkic. Nurk does a lot on offense. So, it's not like it's clear cut that Eubanks is going to take over or anything like that. But I bet there's a lot of people as Nurk goes down inside that team that go, hey, we want to see this. So let's see how this goes. Decent athleticism, and really just, I think I said he was like, the baseline's 8 and 8 with a steal and a block. And then he gets a little bit of extra run. And you saw the other night what that looks like. So that baseline is really nice. It's at minimum 175 value, just sort of with Nurk around, and then you build off of that. And in these situations where the oft injured Nurkic goes down, you're looking at something like top 80 value. So that's cool. That's the low high we always talk about. And, I'm going to start charging for entrance to the island.
Yeah, I admit I had to look up what an estuary was when you said that you were running it. The news here, by the way, is that Yusuf Nurkic, who re-aggravated his calf in their ball game, whatever the hell that was, yesterday or the day before. At this point, I'm on so many cold meds, I can't remember what the hell day it is set to be out through the All-Star break. So that's an at least kind of thing. The All-Star break is 2 weeks away. So you're getting now at least 2 weeks of Drew Eubanks starting center. He's a guy that I sprinted to pick up on this, or on basically as soon as Nurk went down in Portland's last ball game. You had him in a lot of places, which is why you're kind of making this estuary joke, which, by the way, is defined as the tidal mouth of a large river where the tide meets the stream, which is just that's a really pleasant, where the tide meets the stream is the Drew Eubanks stream. So well done there. If let's say you didn't have him, let's talk more like 12-teamer type stuff. Is this a guy where you're cutting anything of value to add him? How do you treat this in a situation where maybe a slightly less deep league?
Yeah, I think you got to judge it by what plays in your league, what plays well in your league. We'll throw out all the caveats about stat sets and what can help. And the good news, I guess, is, maybe not in head-to-head, but in general, he's very consistent. He doesn't hurt you in places, so he kind of is just really vanilla from a stat set perspective. So I'm going to guess he fits everywhere. But if 150 plays in your league, I think it's an easy yes. If 125 plays in your league, I think you're looking long term here, and he might be an end of the bench guy in that kind of a situation. And then if it's a 100 plays, and keep in mind 9-cat, he has about 2 additional rounds of value. If it's that kind of a situation, you're really looking at him as a streamer. And keep in mind that All-Star break is that classic time for people to get healthy. So there's not a lot of games left. So as you're making your stream decisions, it's a streamer with potential benefits, to use the parlance of the day.
The other injury news from yesterday is that Luka Doncic, they are calling his right heel situation not severe, but he is scheduled to undergo an MRI. And the latest report is that he's not likely to play in the first game of a Mavs upcoming 5-game road trip. Is that a situation where are you concerned at all? And then something we saw while he was sidelined very briefly for his ankle late last week, early this week, was that Dorian Finney-Smith actually was kind of the guy who took a big step forward. Is that an area you're exploring, or do you want to wait and find out what sort of timeline we're looking at here?
Yeah, I think you got to wait on that. Dallas is usually very stable, and they are this year as well. I think the bigger conversation, the one that intrigues me the most with Doncic, is he sounds to me like somebody who either can, and I think there's a decent chance he can do what I'm about to say, or at least he thinks he can drink a lot of beer, eat a lot of whatever, handle the kind of the training circuit however he feels like it. And then the most important piece here, all about him, I'm saying that a little facetiously, with some shreds of truth in it, but the big thing is he plays through everything, and that is going to add up over time. And I think it's the combination of those things. Like if he was in peak physical shape at all time, if he wasn't, a little bit round, if that stuff starts to add up, I don't know how it changes his game. Because he's so much built on being stronger than you and more skilled than you, and then he's got the step back, so he's always got that in his back pocket. So I almost think this is just going to keep eating around the edges for him. I don't know if he ever gets bad, and like in the sense where like those numbers really slide, efficiency numbers, overall counting stats, but I don't know who in the history of this game has been able to sort of do it that way. And not have it leave a mark. And that's what I'm watching for. If eventually this guy's got to take 2, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks on an injury of some type. And I don't know when that will be, but it just feels like however many lives he has, he's probably gone through about 4 or 5 of them.
What can the Mavericks survive his absence for any more than like a week? They're horrible without him.
No, that team's got issues. It's a tough West. They'll be in it all the way down. And I don't think this is going to hurt. I mean, as long as this thing's not serious, and it doesn't sound like it is, but I think they'll fight through this year, and then they're going to have bigger conversations as the expectations continue to rise for Doncic, who's got a great shot at an MVP if they can get a little bit more wins under their belt. But then the conversation's already turned to you don't have anybody next to him. And then I think the interesting part is like, who wants to go play next to that guy because he's such a ball dominant, such a tempo dominant player. You're really going to go there and be like fourth fiddle, even if you're the second guy. So that'll be the conversation they have as we go.
It feels like they kind of need to, and I know this isn't really a fantasy discussion for the moment, but it kind of feels like they need to take the approach that the Rockets took around Harden, which is a lot of guys that can just reflect what their star player does well, whether that's, the Rockets going for ultra small ball, trying to find the guy that can kind of spell him a little bit. But I don't know. Right now, it just, I know
they've kind of done that already. They've just done it poorly.
Yeah. I know that the Porzingis thing was a little, maybe not the world's greatest fit, but at least they had like an upper tier player next to him for a while there. And I know they were trying to move contracts around and just get a little more flexibility basically after this year, but I don't know, man. They're in a weird spot there. But let's move on to the next big topic. I tried to scour Twitter for the names that are getting the most activity in the fantasy space, and so Brew and I are going to hit on some of those. And the first one is Cam Johnson, which this is an interesting one because he's kind of been dialed back down lately, and I think it would have been really easy to miss some post-game notes that the Suns, their various reporters that are covering Phoenix were able to kind of pull out of the team, which is that they ramped him up too fast and they're re-ramping him now. And if you missed that news, it feels like an opportunity to buy on Cam Johnson. Are you bullish on his re-ramp up, or are you worried that they might have hurt him by going too fast?
I don't think they hurt him by going too fast. They've been so open about, we're not going to go too fast. We're going to make sure we check all the boxes. So I think this is just them being safe and kind of following through on what they said they were going to do. I mean, you never know. There could always be. I mean, at this point in time, there's no question about his skill. To me, there's no question about his production, and it's only, can he stay healthy? And there's so many reasons for him to stay healthy. Contracts is the top one. Competing in the playoffs. That team is a little weird right now. Let's acknowledge that. But the thing that's kind of like the trump card here is he's a top 80 player since returning under terrible circumstances. Like he's just rusty, coming back from a knee injury and still giving you top 80 numbers. To me, that's a 6th round player, 7th round player. So there's really just no reason not to want to be a part of that. And if the market's soft on him, by all means, take somebody's money. Just go take it.
Yeah, that was, I guess, one of the shorter ones. Maybe I threw it at the front end because of it. Next topic on the docket, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure you feel like we're going to beat this topic into submission, but it's got to be the trade deadline, because you and I aren't going to speak on a podcast between today and Thursday morning on our trade deadline live show. And a new combatant entered the arena yesterday. Well, it had sort of been like floating in the arena on the periphery, but jumped from covered by very good local writers to covered by Shams, and that was Jared Vanderbilt. That was a story that I don't want to say broke yesterday, but got amplified yesterday, that the Jazz are trying to move him, and the Blazers in particular are very interested, and it sounds like other teams are as well. I know you're not a huge stash guy for the deadline. I'm not a huge stash guy either, but for the most part, there's like an opportunity to look at one, maybe two guys in a best case scenario on a roster. Where does Vanderbilt fall among names we've already talked about, Brew, like Mark Williams and Tari Eason and Zach Collins and guys of that nature, where you're like, okay, this feels like a pretty obvious one. How does Vanderbilt fit into that mix? Can his role increase?
I'm a little concerned if he lands in Portland. I don't know who and what would be sent out. I mean, teams should want a Jared Vanderbilt. So, but he's also a classic undervalued, that stuff happens all the time. So could he possibly land in Portland without them giving much up of value? I would think for him to land in Portland and have good value, there's going to have to be at least a Josh Hart exit and maybe something else even. It just doesn't seem like he's going to land somewhere like that and get 27 minutes per game just sort of right off the bat or gifted to him. It feels like he might be a piece of a puzzle where he gets 22 to 25 minutes. Also, I worry about Portland going for more and really trying to honor Damian Lillard's desire to have a competitive team sooner rather than later. I don't think they're going to get stupid over there, but that's just my one concern with him in general.
I'm trying to read between the lines a little bit here. It sounds like he's a little lower on your totem pole than someone like a Mark Williams, say.
Oh, yeah. Mark Williams, to me, I think Mark Williams is must roster right now. Like, no questions asked.
He was great in 17 minutes last night.
Yeah, and I think that they've turned the page on Nick Richards, and also keeping in mind, I think they know they're going to trade Mason Plumlee, and so they're just kind of like probably telling Nick, hey, hang on a little bit. You're going to be back in this thing shortly. So, you had most of the run early in the year. Just kind of take a seat, and we got you in a couple weeks. So Williams is just great right now. Like even in a backup role, if Plumlee somehow was to not get traded because the Hornets are like, we want to make the playoffs. I'm just making that up. You would have Williams be totally fine. I think the rest of the year, I think he's got that backup job, and I think he's got the good enough stat set to make it all work. So he's my top guy. And then Eason is just
whoa.
What do we got? What do we got? Okay.
Whoa.
Going to Twitter.
This can't be real.
Going to Twitter.
This cannot be real. Breaking live here. Kyrie Irving has requested a trade? How is this possible? I had to check to make sure it was the real Shams.
Oh, I love the response. Oh, my sweet God, I love you, Eric Green. Thank you for that wonderful tweet.
How is this possible?
That's how I feel.
How is this possible?
Well, Kyrie Irving is a little bit special.
What's going on here? Is this LeBron? Is he doing this?
I hope so. I hope so, because I need that
what
in my life.
What? This is my reaction. Is the trade deadline?
But here's the thing with Kyrie Irving: you have to be ready for this. This is the baseline. This is the baseline with Kyrie Irving.
I thought he was chill. I thought everybody was like kind of cool there. What happened? Wow.
Well, he did his research, and
thank you.
What he determined was that he wants to go play for the Washington Generals because they have the best policy on sage burning. I don't know. This guy, I have no idea. Like, you can't take anything he does seriously.
Well, I think I probably need to tweet again that we're already live on air. Sorry, recorded listeners. You guys are catching this like an hour later. Brew and I are doing this show, as we always do on Fridays now, live. And this is the straight up. And now Woj just backed it up. So there you go. He wants to be traded ahead of Thursday's deadline. This is crazy.
Hey, yo, Sacramento, go do it. No, I'm just messing. Like, Sacramento, right, don't even think about it, Sacramento.
I mean, what does this do to Kevin Durant?
Probably. Let's see. What would KD do?
He's probably just going to keep playing because he's KD.
Yeah, he does. That's the good thing about KD is he just doesn't care about that.
This is wow. Okay, well, wait a minute. I'm going to try to reel in my shock and awe here and say, well, obviously we don't know who would come back in an Irving trade, but it's going to be a lot. Because
you're a Lakers guy. You're the king of the Lakers right now.
We'll take him.
What's your odds on this being anything related to the Lakers?
I'd say at least 25%.
25%. That's good odds.
I think that's pretty high, right? I was aiming high. If I went higher than that, it would have been like joke.
Can we take this the next step and say that maybe we see a reunion with Russell Westbrook in Brooklyn?
Oh my God. A KD Russ reunion and a Bron Kyrie reunion at the same time.
Could we handle that as a nation?
Oh, I don't even feel sick anymore. I feel great. I've got adrenaline coursing through my veins.
I do too. I'm happy. Like,
this is so crazy.
You get that adrenaline kick you rarely get these days.
This is supposed to happen on Thursday morning. Oh my God.
What does this do to the market? I mean, like, okay, I'm going to get my list of steam. Whenever I want to just like look, I go to the standings.
Get the list. Get the list.
Just be like, who can deal with this?
All right. So Kyrie's contract is what, $30-something million right now, right? Didn't he opt into the last year of a
yeah, but he probably wants to be paid in Bitcoin. So what's the calculation there?
No, that's Spencer Dinwiddie. Let's not get them confused.
Hey, and he's having a great season, by the way.
He is.
Yeah, we talked about the Mavs, and we didn't even touch on that. It's him and Bruce Brown just really like killing it in the rankings.
Bruce Brown is such a nice. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Kyrie,
I can talk about Bruce Brown all day.
37 mil.
Okay, so 37 mil. Where's Miguel?
Steven, we need you. He's probably working like a normie.
Total normie,
like a real boy with a job and stuff. Russ's contract is 47, by the way. So there's a 10 mil gap there.
But we're close, right? Like,
oh yeah, easy. They could make that work if that's really what it took.
You know,
And
I
if that's
kind
what
of
it
feel,
took, the Lakers would do it.
Daryl, I know you're out there, like for just jokes and giggles and stuff. Like
Philly?
Yeah, like come on, Daryl.
I don't think Harden would sign off on that.
Oh hell no! But
After their time together in Brooklyn, I wonder if this
no.
is Ben Simmons related. It feels like that team is completely fed up with Ben Simmons already. And maybe I'm reading too much into this. Would you pick up anyone on Brooklyn on this news? Because I don't know that I can, because it feels like someone significant would have to come back. And like, Kyrie's got a team in mind. He ain't requesting this trade. Just like,
about
anywhere.
What do you think about the relationship between Kyrie and Braun?
I think it's repaired.
Like that's what I think.
Like 3 days ago, Braun sat out that ball game in Brooklyn. Gift the Nets a nice little victory there. And then Kyrie's like, you need to, he told the whole world, appreciate what this man is doing. Which, by the way, he's not wrong there. Like, what LeBron's done has been pretty unbelievable. Like, he's about to pass Kareem. That's crazy. But those two guys, but here's the thing, though. That's very much a distance or an absence makes the heart grow fonder type of thing, because, like,
but they're so screwed in LA and nobody wants it. Okay,
to.
let's look at the rest of the league. Who's going to take Kyrie? Cleveland? No. Miami? No. Maybe. I'll give them a maybe, but like,
yeah, Miami's maybe. That's because they're a little disappointing right now. They need to shake something up because Kyle Lowry looks like he died. I don't know.
Honestly, Jimmy Butler would probably just make Kyrie go curl in a ball and cry if it push came to shove.
That's true. You think Jimmy would sign off on that? It feels like he'd be like, nah, man.
I'd probably say nah, man.
He couldn't even coexist with Cat, who's just sort of like
apathetic. Well, he made Cat cry more or less, and then. I mean, the Knicks know they got Brunson, and that's, kind of, they're happy there. Atlanta's kind of crazy enough, but at least there's a good solid chunk of that organization that's smartly behind DeJounte Murray, and they get it. And I don't think they're going to be that team. Washington's always there. Washington's a little crazy. I don't know what they would do, but they're a little crazy.
It's LA.
It's LA. I mean, yeah. It's not Indy. It's not Chicago. It's not Toronto. I don't even know if he can play in Toronto. What's the rules up there these days?
This actually just gave the Lakers a crap ton of leverage. I don't know if that was the intent, but it probably was the intent, because now they can negotiate. Like, if there's really a superstar that wants to go there, because that is what this sounds like. Now the Lakers would be like, all right, Chicago, you want to get off your stars? You're going to have to beat Kyrie coming in. Washington, you want to get off Beal? You're going to have to beat Kyrie coming in. This is, dude, the league. This is why I know I'm a Laker fan, so I'm going to try to say this without smirking as I'm saying it, but this is why the league hates the Lakers, because this type of crap just falls in the Lakers' lap. And it's very much, someone's going to come out of left field after we've said all this. Someone's going to come out of left field and he'll end up somewhere else after all of this. But right now, this is Lakers leverage, and the league has every right to be annoyed with them about it, because nobody else would be this fortunate.
There's no other place.
Deal. They don't even have to take him after this year if they don't want.
There's no other place that can reasonably want to take him. I mean, even the bottom feeders that might be like, oh yeah, I'll try that out.
They wouldn't want to give up what it would take to get him.
Yeah, there's no point. Like,
you got to look
Utah.
For a team you're looking for embattled teams right now, right? You're looking for a team where the expectations are high and the future is bleak.
And that's LA and maybe Phoenix. Maybe Phoenix. But Chris Paul's going to be like, yeah, I'll sign off on all of this.
He might be the one going the other way.
Yeah. Hey, and you know what? Well, also remember, there's always new owner stank. Like, new owner stank is. Look at it in Minnesota. Look at it in Sacramento. All those years, like, new owner comes in, they think they know stuff, and I don't know that this is the case, but like, maybe the new owners are like, I don't like being in 7th place, and Kyrie's gonna get us there. But this smells like LA.
Can I just remind you that like 30 minutes ago, this podcast started with us talking about vasectomies? And
that's going to the Broadcasting Hall of Fame right there.
How far we've come in a mere half an hour. Welcome, by the way, to everybody that's tuning in who is just blown away by this ridiculous news. Brew and I got extraordinarily lucky that we were actually on air while it happened. All right, so let's play this game, Brew, because I'm officially taking all of the work I did last night of topics we were going to be talking about on today's show, and I'm just throwing it right off the
You
side.
don't want to talk about Isaiah Hartenstein right now?
I did. Initially, I did. He was on the damn list, but Isaiah can wait. Kyrie is a bigger deal. Let's say, hypothetically, and I need to probably pull up Brooklyn's contract situation in front of my face here. Let's say that Russ and Kyrie is the nucleus of a potential deal. Someone else would have to be with Kyrie Irving, someone in the like $10 million range. Seth Curry is right around there. Royce O'Neal is right around there. They have plenty of things that could make that work. Patty Mills plus like TJ Warren. Like there's plenty that could fill that gap. Lakers presumably would have to send some picks back the other way because Kyrie is markedly better at basketball than Russell Westbrook. Instantaneously turns the Lakers into a contender. So, I mean, that's a pretty good selling point. Would the Nets, I assume the Nets, if they got Russ back, they'd probably play him. I don't think it's not like a rebuilding team that would cut him loose. Doesn't his arrival kind of stop anyone else interesting from gaining fantasy value in Brooklyn, or am I simplifying it too much?
No, I think it hurts kind of everybody by a little bit. You know, the Royce O'Neals, like the Seth Currys, like it just, you're gonna be watching. I mean, so like I almost tweeted this out. I was too late. I was too tired. I couldn't think of the joke. All I knew is that like 5 times a year, I'll be reading box scores and I just audibly laugh because I see something and it's so on point or whatever it is, whatever is causing me to laugh. 2 of 16 in a 1-point win last night. I mean, I saw the tweets. That wasn't going well for him, but
no,
like
everybody got really mad too that he was part of the closing lineup, which is really funny because that was actually the only time in the ball game where he wasn't horrific because he wasn't super involved down the stretch. He played defense, and there was like one play where he got the ball to AD inside, I believe, and that was.
I would like to request 15 seconds of just Scott Brooks talk. That guy got so much he's a good coach stuff from all of NBA land. And look at what he did to Russell Westbrook. Look at how badly that guy doesn't know how to play basketball. Like you put him in Brooklyn, he's going to do the same thing he's done. He did it with LeBron James.
Yeah.
Like LeBron is the guy that all the planets orbit around him. And then Russ is like, nah, I got this, man.
Yeah, no, I got my own orbit, baby. Russ is in his own orbit. There was a 2-week stretch this year where it seemed like maybe he could carve out that bench role, but he's just gone back to forcing everything all the time. But that's the thing, though. Like a lot of the questions that are firing off in the YouTube chat and on Twitter off this are, well, should I stash Seth Curry? Should I stash Joe Harris? Should I stash? And it's like, if you have 2 very high usage guys, 2 ships passing in the night, I don't know that anything around them changes all that much. This may be an incoming or impending blockbuster trade that means way more on the reality side than it does on the fantasy side. Agreed?
At least with Kyrie, you know kind of what he's like a wizard with the ball, and there's an intuitiveness that even though it's very selfish, you know, he's a selfish basketball player. Let's just be clear. But like within that context, he's still very, very, very good.
Yeah, that's allowed if you're really good. If you're
Russ is like dribble the ball off his palms 5 times at 100 miles an hour and then stop for the longest 2 you've ever seen, and it barely hits the backboard.
Yeah, I don't.
So you bring it's going to be a downer for Brooklyn.
What about
KD? Yeah, I think KD is going to be great no matter what. I mean, this probably helps him. There's familiarity there with them. It might even help Russ out a little bit just to have, you know, that reunion. Playing with LeBron is tough, like flat out. You know, he has his own tempo issues, you know, killing momentum with his pet shots that he likes to go to that aren't necessarily the good ones.
Yeah, but you give him that because he carries the team. That's like okay, fine, I don't like this, but you're allowed to do it 3 or 4 times a game because, you know, team is a plus 22 when you're in there and a minus 26 when you're out kind of thing.
Yeah.
But with Russ, it's like, oh, you're going to do that when we're hanging on by a thread as it is?
How many highlights has he had this year of just like, oh, I can't believe we just saw that at the end of a game.
It's not even about the highlights for Russ. To me, are almost too cruel because they pick on the worst moment, and that's not even the stuff that, for me, watching the Laker game, and I'm trying to watch every possession. It's like he gets out in transition, he makes one good pass, and then you've got like 3 half-court sets in a row, and he tries to do the same thing. It doesn't make a highlight reel because he just bounces the ball to the other team, and it's not funny. It's just bad. By the way, I want to remind everybody watching that Chris Haynes tweet, this is thank you to Koo, who covers the Pistons. He just retweeted this to remind everybody that Kyrie Irving on January 25th, which is basically a week ago, a report came out from Haynes saying that Kyrie was seeking a contract extension and wanted to keep Brooklyn his home. Doesn't it kind of feel like the Nets basically said, you're not getting an extension here? And this is his response to that?
This guy's been entitled the whole time. He's had that treatment as a player where all this stuff has just been kind of okayed by everywhere he's played, for the most part. I'm sure he's gotten pushback at some point in time. So yeah, he's reacting like a little baby.
I can't wait to see what happens. This is going to make our trade deadline show even more fun.
And now we got to. It's funny you mentioned Ben Simmons. Like, if he could stay healthy, isn't he the only point guard? Really? I mean, you can run, Curry out there. Can he even stay healthy if you gave him the ball a lot? I don't know.
Wow. Well, this show took quite a turn. I know nobody wants us to talk about anything else, but I feel like I still need to get a couple of these other fantasy nuggets in because this trade hasn't actually happened yet. We're manifested.
There's going to be all the follow-up stuff so basically, these stories have been in the chamber for, Shams and then Woj, and then you're going to get Mark Stein and Chris Haynes. Everybody's going to get their next detail because that's how it gets sold. In the food chain of the press. It's like, I'm not going to give you the top nugget, but I'll give you the fourth nugget. So we're going to get all those nuggets over the next half hour here. So we'll have time to talk about Kyrie.
Yeah, and I mean, Shams has pretty much since the outset been, I don't want to say carrying water, but a little bit of water carrying.
Oh, come on. Both he and Woj have, it's very clear how much water gets carried.
It seems like with the Brooklyn stuff, Woj often got the team report and Shams often got the Kyrie report.
The agent report, yeah.
Right. So the fact that Shams came out with this was like on it. It's happening. Don't you think? I mean,
oh yeah, no, there's no coming back. Like Brooklyn has, and all the crap he's put Brooklyn through. I mean,
yeah, I know. This is how it ends. Crazy.
It's, and frankly, I mean, there's to kind of back up Kyrie a little bit. There is business, okay, you're not going to get what you want, right? All right, cool. Now I need to get what I want, as his agent thinking. So, well, how's the best way for him to get what you want? And they don't care about the optics. That's another thing that people really, I think, as a whole, we don't kind of collectively understand, is that nobody cares about the optics. Nobody cares about what Twitter thinks. Like, he knows there's going to be bad press. They'll get over it. People will forget. So demanding this trade, as bad as it makes him look, as, unsavory as it is, and, if you're a team that's looking to acquire him, as kind of stupid as you have to be to go into this thinking you're not going to get the same exact thing that's happened over and over and over again. The best way to do that is what he's doing, is to say, I don't want to re-up. You need to trade me. And, I think Jerry West would probably just make him go to free agency. That's an interesting angle.
Yeah. And that's basically what he's, Woj, there have been some follow-up tweets actually while you were saying that, which is that there were some talks on a new deal. No deal was reached, and a trade request was delivered to the organization today. Irving can leave the franchise this summer as a free agent. So he's basically saying, like, look, if we're not getting a deal done, I'm out of here.
Well, in that last line, I'm going to pull that up so I can make sure I'm reading it right. That last line, In our line of work, you get good at reading things like this.
Yep, that didn't need to be in there.
But no, every word is in there for a reason, and a lot of this stuff. There's a good friend of ours in another industry. I don't want to go that far. I don't even know, but like a follower of the shows in another industry who's a major newsbreaker that got caught doing this, and there's copy that it gets exchanged back and forth. That's like, hey, are you good with this? And so the copy is actually very important. Irving can leave the franchise this summer as a free agent. You might as well read that in a threat voice.
Yep.
Like, go ahead and leave. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. So in terms of a trade, this thing with Russell Westbrook, I mean.
So there's some folks that are already putting together 3-team deals involving Utah, where Russ ends up with the Jazz. Sexton, Beasley, other pieces would end up in Brooklyn in a situation like that. So there's a lot left to play out. I'm going to do the completely idiotic thing here on a podcast, and I'm going to take us to a couple of other topics before we get to questions in the chat room. To the many of you that joined us on this insane news, please do find us on Twitter at Dan Besbris, at Aaron Bruski, DANBESBRIS, AARONBRUSKI. Like and subscribe to our YouTube page. This is a nice big turnout here on the Kyrie Irving news. I'm fighting my way through this cold. My Tylenol is wearing off. I have Afrin here at my desk that you guys might actually watch me use mid-podcast. But I got to pick Brew's brain on a couple of players. We talked Drew Eubanks at the beginning of the show. We talked Cam Johnson at the beginning of the show. And then Kyrie Irving issued a trade demand. And I want to get to at least like 2 more players here before we talked Jared Vanderbilt and trade deadline stashes a little bit. Brew, can I hit you with like 2 more players before we do a couple of questions?
Yeah, we'll go lightning round.
Oh, it doesn't even need to be lightning round. You talk as long as you want. You're the healthy one here.
I'll carry the show, Dan.
I'm just gonna sit back and take little cat naps to try to get my energy back in between whatever weird stuff I'm saying today. I'm not gonna remember anything I've done. Got so many sweet cold meds coursing through my veins. What are you doing with Isaiah Hartenstein? I know we sort of like joked that we weren't going to get to talk about it, but I want to talk about him. He had a second decent ball game in a row.
Yeah, I've had to sort of reset expectations. It sucks because expectations were working out early on and everybody was happy with Isaiah Hartenstein for about a month there. And I just think, I mean, we don't know for sure. I think the injuries have taken his game out and it just feels like he's getting healthy now. You're seeing it in the stat sheet. So I think one of the main points that looking into the season was like, this is a guy that can, in say 20 minutes per game, start to get you top 150, top 130. We've seen even better stretches from him. And then the thought was, this is a guy who can really play. He's going to a team that values defense. Mitchell Robinson has not been able to stay healthy. At times all last year, he was dragging his leg up and down the court. So you're just sitting there going, all right, good, solid floor, good player, going to a decent spot, and a very good potential to keep rising through the ranks. And that's why he was high, on the board for folks and especially us. But now you're seeing Mitchell Robinson not stay healthy, but it's been better on the floor. He hasn't looked as bad physically. So with that, you're going to just sort of keep that in the back of your mind and say, we don't have as much hope that Hartenstein can just sort of roll over, a very unhealthy Mitchell Robinson who's hurt right now, but I digress. Sims is still very inconsistent, still has holes in his game, but has an incredible body to work with, so he's better than we thought at the beginning of the year, at least in just terms of where he's at. And then Hartenstein, how does he fit? So I'm not sure he can get to where we thought he would be preseason because they're just flat out not using him as a facilitator, which keeps him involved in the offense, which gets him easy shots, offensive putbacks, things like the little things that will help accumulate value the way it did in the past. He's not getting that. So I'm a little bit more bearish here. I think if you need a big man, that's definitely the time to take a shot, because if this was all injury driven, you're going to start to see all the stats come back. You're going to start to see him climb in the MPG. There is a chance that Mitchell Robinson continues to get hit with the injury bug, and they just, keep going up with Hartenstein. But beyond that, like, is he going to be somebody that definitely makes an impact? Is he somebody that we're hype training right now? I don't think so.
Yeah, it does feel like we have to kind of keep it all in check, because Mitchell Robinson was having a really good season before he got hurt.
And looking healthy.
What's that?
Looking healthy-ish.
Yeah, prior to this.
So the last year, I was really worried for his career, let alone, how was he going to play in the next week or two with the way he was dragging his leg up and down the court.
I can only think of airplane when I hear the term dragging up and down the court, which shout out to Kareem, who's about to have his record broken for that hilarious line in airplane. Okay. Next guy on my board is actually really more of a team. What the heck's going on with Miami? Specifically Kyle Lowry, who looks like he's bordering on just taking a nap on the court these days. What the hell happened?
Yeah. Well, he played a ton of minutes is primarily what happened. And that's, because I have him in one pretty important league, and he definitely wasn't somebody I was targeting, and he just sort of fell to me, and it was like, hey, why not Kyle Lowry? What if? And it's actually worked out, until lately. The minutes, I was just watching the minutes and going, man, this is not going to last long. This is going to end. And so it's ending while he's on the floor. And we also have seen that with Miami. Gabe Vincent has played the same role. He gets banged up, he gets on the floor, and it's almost as if he's out there and everybody has an understanding. Look, this guy's hurt. Don't give him the ball. He's just going to stand there and take up minutes. And, we're just so desperate that we got to do that. And I think that's what's happening with them, is they're not ready to turn the team over to others. And, it's just go out there and stand, really. And that's the stats that you're seeing. And he's also lost all of his ability to do what he used to do. So he has flashes. He can get in there and do things when the other team is completely porous. But if there's anybody of, decent defense across from him, he can't beat him anymore. So there's that.
Do you think Victor Oladipo, who missed their last ball game, can he potentially stay above the cut line, or is he not? Is there just not enough left when they're healthy there either?
It's just about his health. I think if he's healthy, I think he's going to get top 125 value with or without people around him being healthy, because they need his offense. And this is a team that's really, they've got too many players that have been either too dinged up or are not offensive enough to begin with. And it just kind of comes back to Jimmy Butler. Hey, Jimmy, go save us, and getting a little bit more out of Bam this year, but still, teams aren't afraid of that. And yet they've been winning lately a little bit. I don't know the last couple games if they won or not, but somebody remind me. But they were on like a 5-1, 6-1 kind of a run, and put themselves back.
Scoring games too, kind of like grinded out types.
Yeah, they're just quietly getting back to business there.
But they lost to the Knicks yesterday, I think was the most recent one. But they are 6-4 their last 10. They've been playing a little bit better. They're pretty good at home also, not surprisingly.
Yeah, that Miami nightlife.
Miami nightlife remains.
And then, you know what? Half of me wonders, did Kyle Lowry get sucked up?
I have no idea.
Did they lose him to the city?
I thought he looked a little thinner at the start of the year. I don't know if that's the case anymore, but
yeah, he got a little large there.
Okay, and then I don't know if I want to redux something that we talked about earlier in the week, but I do kind of want to loop back around to trade deadline just one more time and kind of put a bow on that discussion. If you missed it earlier in the show, we talked a bit about Jared Vanderbilt. Brew, you talked a bit about Mark Williams. Can I get your thoughts one more time here, just so everybody kind of has it going into the weekend, on Zach Collins and Tari Eason are a couple of the names, and maybe even Precious Achua as other possibilities here, which I know it's kind of hard to talk about with this Kyrie stuff up in the air, because it could upend the Lakers, it could upend the Suns, it could upend the Clippers, it could upend the Jazz. I mean, that's also why it's hard to pick a stash, or maybe the answer here is this is why I don't go beyond Mark Williams, who seems like all the Charlotte stuff is kind of insulated from what just happened with Kyrie. Where do you stand with the whole deadline stash concept as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's funny that there's like there seems to be this backlash against deadline stashes. And I think like maybe there was kind of an overstashing maybe 5 years ago. I don't know. The trade deadlines also, back in those days, there used to be these just massive one year, like a third of the league or even more got traded. And so you got to see some guys that just went pop, after the deadline. So, but that's been so long ago. I don't know what just seeing people talk about the trade deadline stashes, like, that's like the argument against nobody out there. I don't think anybody's arguing that you hold an asset, just strictly because there's some positionality, involved. I know we got the Isaiah Jackson stuff going on, but like the dude played 9 minutes last. You wanted me to go on a rant about this?
Sure, rant away.
The dude has these games where he has as many blocks and or rebounds as he has minutes. Like he had 3 minutes the other night and he got 3 blocks. He had 9 minutes last night and had 3 blocks and 6 rebounds. That on its own is rationale to hang on to somebody, not necessarily like the trade deadline. But of course, with that particular player, depending on in your leagues, of course. This is why I almost feel like every piece of analysis needs to have like on the front end, what plays in your league. If top 75 plays in your league, you might not want to hang on to this guy, because it's just not worth it. But if top 200 plays in your league, that's absolutely worth it to hang on to somebody, whether you're looking at the deadline as the motivator or the coach just decides, hey, I'm going to play you. Shout out Rick Carlisle for making sure that Daniel Tice got his minutes. Because the world of the Indiana Pacers, who lost, by the way, it wouldn't be all right unless Daniel Tice.
He was by the way, Tice was a -12 in 7 minutes yesterday. As a Laker fan, I was extremely grateful for those
Tice 7 minutes.
Because Miles Turner was just dominating that game in every way. If he played 34 minutes instead of 31 and a half, Indy wins that game going away.
This is where I really wish, it's like the Athletic came, talking big game. We're going to bring you the stories that matter. They said it in that exact voice, actually. And I want to know, you got these 2 young players that, you were so high on with Isaiah Jackson. You talked him up all last year. You gave him all this opportunity. He showed he could step into it. What's the plan there? Like, are you trying to just crush this dude? Or is he absolutely not mature enough to handle where he was at? And now it's Rick Carlisle saying, I'm going to put you in your place, man. And then there's going to be a happy ending after all that. Like, where's the reporting that's going to get to the bottom of that? Because you didn't do it just with one player. You did it with 2 players. You did it with Jalen Smith as well. And now you turn to Miles Turner, good player. But, is he somebody that you can absolutely build around? 2-year deal? That's weird. Can the Athletic get in there and get to the bottom of this? Can somebody else get in there and get to the bottom of this? Because it feels like if you're not going to maximize those 2 players, what are you going to get in return? Are you just going to bury them and destroy their value? And now when you go to trade them, you can't get anything back? Or are you trying to decrease their value so you can re-sign them in 3 years for cheap? Like, what's the angle here?
Well, I feel like we saw teams do this with Christian Wood, and then he immediately signed a contract somewhere else. You're sort of guaranteeing that when the player gets good, they're not going to want to stay on your team.
Yeah, that's a good example. Christian Wood. But you seem to, I wish we'd get more stories on this. It almost feels like the GMs out there are trying to decrease the value of their assets so they can sign them for cheap.
That's a distinct possibility. I actually think that maybe Rick Carlisle was trying to kind of tank a little bit, and then Tyrese Halliburton has just been too good.
I mean, it's possible.
That's a
big game tonight, by the way. I don't know if he'll play. Like, I mean, yeah. It's a back-to-back after a couple of weeks off. No Fox because he's got his kiddo. And also, this is just a random thought. If you're going to get snubbed on the All-Star, and I do think that De'Aaron Fox got snubbed on the All-Star, what a way to like distract yourself. You get your first kid and you're going to be up all night, like
just stewing.
Not caring about basketball. Well,
Yeah,
I
it
don't
could be
know.
both ways.
I would personally just be like, I don't care. Like, I'm not even going to think about basketball for 3 days and just be with my kid. And when I come back, then I'm going to kick everybody's ass. Actually, and a lot of Kings fans are complaining. I don't think you should be complaining. I think you guys should be happy. He's going to go and just take it out on the rest of the league the rest of the year.
I don't know what more he could do in fourth quarters than he already is. Maybe he'll just start doing it in the third now instead.
Honestly, I shout to him and his camp. They've had a problem with me because, I pointed out the bad defense that you could just see right there on film. But he has been the Mariano Rivera of the NBA. And it's been incredible to watch because it's like watching kids play. And there's the one kid that's just better. And they can kind of just go to whatever they want to go to whenever they want to go to it. And he's just converting on all of it that way. It's great to watch. And shout out to Paul George. You got an all-star nod and you didn't even need to do anything for it.
Yeah. You might even need to play next year. Who knows?
No, if you're going to get an all-star without having to play, I mean, why play?
Yeah, I really don't. I don't like that one.
I think we're going to 72 games. That's my theory.
You think? That's a lot of revenue though.
I mean, it's on the players now too. Their BRI is going to shrink because they're out there, whether it's them listening to the trainers or them just wanting to keep their careers to, intact and stay on the court longer. They're all going to lose on this thing because it just doesn't make sense from a TV perspective to have, this narrative, when 90% of the public watches First Take and, whatever the Fox Shannon Sharp equivalent is, with that other guy who shan't be named, they get their opinion on the NBA is what those guys say. And they're out there complaining that, such and such isn't playing. So people are going to be down on the NBA. TV ratings will be down. It's all going to come out of your guys' pocket. You either play hard for 82 or you play less hard for 72. Your choice.
Yeah. And there's a downside to it for them as well. We are going to go to the chat room now. If you guys are still hanging out with us on YouTube, feel free to throw a question in there. We're going to do it pretty quick here.
And programming note, hard stop 11:45.
Bruce got 15 minutes, everybody. So we are rolling. Question number 1. What are your thoughts on getting rid of positions and just playing with all utility spots? This way you can just draft whoever you think is best, even if it's 10 point guards. I don't mind it, actually.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, I think there's something to be said for position eligibility that, I kind of like. I like the strategy of it. I like, not having the, I don't know if you guys get the background noise. I got people outside the house yelling and screaming and all that good stuff. I don't know. I like the position eligibility. It's just one little added wrinkle. I like it even when they do it bad. But if you want to talk fair is fair. I've had a couple leagues that played like this. You mold your team the way you want to mold it. So I'm for it. But I do like the weird little intricate rules.
Yeah, most of the leagues I run, I've switched it to 3 guard, 3 forward. So none of the like point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward discrepancy there. Guys have tons of eligibility. It becomes sort of a non-issue once you just take away part of it there. I received a trade. Lauri Markkanen for Terry Rozier and Wendell Carter Jr. Which side do you like here? I think I'm on the Markkanen side. You?
Yeah, I think so. I get a little worried about Utah just sort of falling in the standings. And then, one of the reasons that Markkanen was, I don't want to say under the radar because I don't think he was under the radar, but in terms of being a top 20 asset, very much under the radar. And one of the reasons that is the case is that he was injured all the time. So, Terry Rozier, well, one thing that makes me say, I'll say Markkanen outright on this one is you might see Rozier in another location that's not so friendly.
I'm in a comfortable lead, and I've been stashing Mark Williams, Precious Achiuwa, and Alec Burks. Do you think these are good holds to power my way through to the end? I can't imagine Burks holds onto this role past the trade deadline in Detroit, but crazier things have happened. And Brew has already expressed how very pro Mark Williams he is. So what do you think about Precious and Burks? I know, not a great lightning round question, but
yeah, Precious, I think he's interesting, but just that stat set, you got to keep that in mind. And if his deficiencies are not something that you can handle, or you just got to look at that and make sure you're getting full value there. And if you are, I'm still hesitant to get behind it because I think that they have a little bit of precious fatigue in Toronto. They haven't had his back, after initially having his back a little bit. And then what is going on with this team and what do they get back for an OG Anunoby? It could absolutely wipe him out. So that's all just keeping my expectations low. I would say if there's not a lot of upside on your wire, you could look at him because theoretically he puts it all together on a team that's maybe not tanking, or maybe tanking a little bit and, kind of cutting players like that loose after a trade deadline where they are sellers, not buyers. The one thing I mentioned on another show, I think it was my show, is that there's been rumors about Pirtle going back there, and that would just crush him. So I just think that Williams is at the very top, and then those two players are absolutely expendable.
Kelly Olynyk or Drew Eubanks going forward?
I mean, I know that we've seen little flashes of Houston Kelly O, but he also, to me, is a player that probably plays 75% of the remaining games, maybe even less if things get really bad there. Eubanks, I think, is locked in the rest of the way. So this might burn me, but I'll be the evangelist of Eubanks estuary one more time. Give me Drew Eubanks.
Wow. Eubanks, Ben Simmons, Josh Hart.
Can I just say I don't feel good about that one at all, but I'm going to just go with my gut. And
you hurt my poor addled old heart here. Which of these three guys would you drop, Brew? Drew Eubanks, Ben Simmons, or Josh Hart?
I think it's going to be Hart. I mean, there's a lot of they're not happy with his play in Portland. He's an injury risk guy. He also has this what if he lands in a place like OKC somehow and they just cut him loose and he's like a top 50 guy. I don't want to even say that because now you might think it could happen, and I don't think you could plan for that at all, but Hart would be the guy I would kick out there.
Scrolling down a little bit here, just a nice comment. No questions today. Just wanted to tell you you're the best. Thanks. That feels nice when I feel so ill right now. Need some positive reinforcement. Drew Eubanks or Larry Nance? Forget the punt. We're not doing punts on today's show. What do you like, guys?
Nance is really just leveled out as a 130, 150 guy with a decent number of minutes, and it's all coming in one game, and then he's disappearing the next. So I gotta say I like Eubanks there.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. Eubanks or Jabari Smith Jr.?
Now we're getting spicy. You guys are just baiting me at this point.
Yep. That's what they got you, man.
That team also, I mean, turning it over to Şengün.
Yeah, nicely done.
Thanks. Now I'm like Mackie Sasser with the throwback to the pitcher there.
You're reading the Playboy out loud.
Yeah, totally, dude.
Because I know you like Jabari Smith Jr.'s fantasy game. He hasn't hit the percentages yet, but does he figure it out?
This team is so bad in terms of what happens on the floor, even with Şengün. His game is, he's got the smarts and the IQ, but also it doesn't quite fit with what they've got going on because they have three other players that really want to shoot the ball at all times. So they're not comfortable playing off of him that way. It's a total mess there. Being that Jabari needs somebody to get him the ball, he doesn't get the ball with consistency. Kevin Porter, I think this is worth talking about. He talked about his injury. He thought it was a short-term one, and it started dragging out. And it doesn't sound like it's dead in the water. It doesn't, because it sounded like it might be for a little bit. Not dead in the water, but maybe there was something serious going on there. But it does sound like he'll eventually, probably on the other side of the break, be back. You could get Jalen back. You got something probably going on at the trade deadline. Who knows what there? You got Eason. There's a lot of different pieces there. And Jabari, that just doesn't look good for him. I'm going to say to hang on to Jabari because at some point, the people involved there are going to get pretty pissed that their top pick is not performing. And I think there will be a message sent down below. Hey, get him the ball more because we need to know what we have. Like you can't go the entire year with him being this far on the outside looking in, for guys like Porter to be jacking it up. You can't go full Şengün and just leave that guy out in the lurch. So I'll go Jabari.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. A couple of questions about Olynyk, but you touched on that just a minute ago. Any concern of jumping off the Nurkic ship, which is an interesting angle on this, but I don't know what you could even do there. Like you probably can't get reasonable value for him while he's hurt anyway. But earlier, I think you said you weren't super concerned that it was going to just get turned over to Eubanks, but maybe sliding minute or two more towards a timeshare. Is that still, did I hear you right there?
Yeah, but I think with Nurk, one of the good things is as his minutes go down, he's going to be emboldened and asked to provide more. He's on the floor for the offense. So
yeah, it could be good.
Yeah, it could just condense his minutes, make things more efficient. And I think I'm not moving off of Nurk, maybe because this question is being asked, it's a drop question in a shallower league where top 75 is all that plays. And you're kind of thinking, all right, what do I got here? But I think the baseline is the same. And you got the All-Star break. Let's not hold this injury against him. He gets a lot of these things. And he could easily be back on the other side of the break.
What do you think about Daniel Gafford, Kevin Huerter rest of season? Are these guys that you're holding, or are they more streamer slot-ish?
There might be an issue for Huerter at the deadline because all of the rumor from Sacramento is that they're going for a wing, which is funny because they don't really need a guard. And Harrison Barnes next to Keegan at 3 and 4 is really kind of as good as it gets. Keegan can play on the perimeter and defend. Barnes in terms of defense is just like at least not a huge liability. He does certain things well and he doesn't really get up in the air and protect the rim. But so what are they looking for? Are they looking for a 1-2 or a 2-3? This could hurt Huerter. And he's at about a 120 right now. And that's, right on the cut line for a lot of leagues. I would just rate him there. I like the player and they definitely rely on him. But there could be some degradation in his future. And then Gafford, I just don't trust him to stay healthy. I'm not sure he's going to be in, say, like a 9-cat league where he's really better than in 8-cat leagues. I don't know that he's going to cross the top 80 mark, even in an upside scenario right now. So I would rate Gafford at like 120 per game in a 9-cat league, and he plays like 75% of his games.
Let's see what I got next on this board here. I know we're down to 4 minutes of you here. Gafford versus Hartenstein versus Eubanks. Pick your favorite 2 of those 3.
Eubanks, then Hartenstein.
Interesting.
I know. And I'm a former Gafford fan or, advocate, but
I thought Porzingis would be out longer. That would have been his window there.
I mean, that's a dude that I'm really worried about his knees. Like he was barely making it up and down the floor last year.
I've gotten this question like 4 times in the chat, and we sort of talked about it discussing the Kyrie thing. Would you add Seth Curry? But I mean, part of it would be in case Kyrie just starts sitting ball games here. But is there any long-term solution here with Seth?
He's just so hurt. Like they're managing his minutes and they've really needed him on the floor all year. So, it's a need to manage the minutes, not a want. He's definitely been producing. I think you can, if you can manage days off and if you can, effectively stream him maybe in and out of your lineup. I just think those off games are going to be very painful for you, and be careful.
Battle of the Jalen's, Duren or Williams rest of this year?
In a points league.
Yeah. You can answer it for both if you want.
I think Jalen Williams is at least super exciting. I think there's something to be said about that, like a tiebreaker going to fun. Yeah, they're both exciting, but Jalen's got like multi-category potential and a lot of usage, and so it's just there's a lot of action surrounding him right now, and it doesn't quite add up to what you would hope for fantasy value. And Duren could just go in there and just go, whatever, 60% from the field and approach 2 blocks a game and get you a couple steals and, all those boards and just shoot up the ranks. And how if he shoots free throws, it could be over. And I think Duren's got the upside. Sometimes it works out like this. Duren has some super high upside, but the higher likelihood of a more attainable upside, of like a mid-level upside, will go to Jalen Williams with a higher percentage chance. So you got to kind of ask yourself, am I shooting for the moon here, or am I happy with just a little bit of upside? And I think Jalen Williams is the answer there.
All right, I know you're down to 2 minutes here, so I'm going to try to pick one. This feels like kind of an easy one. Mark Williams or Precious Achiuwa?
Mark Williams.
Wendell Carter Jr. or Jalen Duren?
Give me Duren.
What is your take on Zach Collins? This will be the last question we do live on air before I yell at everybody. Hey, like it. Actually, screw that. I'm going to do it beforehand. If you're joining us live today, please do like and subscribe to our YouTube page. There are like 2.5 times of number of you watching that have hit the thumbs up button on the video. So please do take a second to go do it. I know some of you are watching on delay, so you'll get to this at some point. But again, it's youtube.com/sportsethos. We are going to have 8 live shows this week, which is kind of amazing. We've completely revamped our YouTube page. I know we got lucky that crazy Kyrie news broke while we were live on air today, but please, guys, I'm literally dying in this chair. I need to get out of here and take medicine, and Brew needs to get to his next appointment. Please like and subscribe. It's the least you can do. Brew, Zach Collins, and then we're out of here.
I'm just not on that hype train. I think he's too inconsistent to take advantage of big minutes. Top 100 ceiling, I think, and then probably likely in this scenario, like a top 125.
He is Aaron Bruski. Follow him on Twitter. You can see it on your screen, but if you're listening, at AARONBRUSKI. I am at Dan Besbris on Twitter, DANBESBRIS. These are the last little bits of vocal strength I have left, and I want to wish you all a wonderful weekend. We'll be back on Monday with a reverse chronological lightning round on the recorded side. On the live show side, Eric Ong. He's got a waiver wire show coming up on Sunday night, so lots going on here in the next couple of days. Crazy Kyrie at it again. We'll talk to you guys soon. So long, everybody.